Yeah.
I have the privilege and honor to interview my next guest, Dustin Droen. He's a positive mindset coach, inspirational thinker, divorced in 2020 after 25 years of marriage, and he's blessed with 3 amazing children. I would like to focus our talk today about the 5 concepts of growth and how he incorporates that as a single dad. I love the acronym PEACE, pivot, expand, cultivate and evolve. And we're just talking a little bit before the interview about how it's not always easy, but if you have that awareness and just a mindset, right? That's all it takes is a mindset. So thank you, Dustin. How do you do it? 3
Well,
children.
first of all, thank you for this interview. It's great to talk about this kind of stuff. I think in a nutshell, the thing that I focus on the most is the end result when it comes to your kids. And like the divorce notwithstanding, the divorce was the divorce. And I guess I'll back up and say that this mindset thing came from the divorce part. I think you're doing a lot of that mindset stuff without really thinking about it because you're kind of in survival mode at some point and you don't really understand you know, what you're doing while you're doing it. And then in retrospect, you look back and go, oh gosh, this is what I was doing the whole time. And this is how I got to where I am now or whatever. But um, as a parent, using, applying the PEACE acronym. So it's actually pivot, expand, attract, cultivate, and evolve.
Sorry, I
So
forgot the A.
that's okay. There was an A in there somewhere. We were just talking about, challenging times with your kids when they're younger. And I was remembering when, my youngest or my oldest child, and I was a first time parent, and I really had to take a step back and in several moments in the beginning of, when you're not sure what you're doing and you're not sure, you're scared and you're just, you feel super isolated and alone and stuff. And so a lot of that stress shows up with in front of your kids. That's how it shows up. You're like, I'm stressed out. You talk to your spouse or your wife, your husband, and you go, they don't know anything any more than you do. So then you're just like, what do we do? We're just laying on each other. So, with the pivot thing, I explained that I had to take a step back and realize that, if I was frustrated with the kids or as an infant, I'm just going to infancy, but I really had to stop and take a breath and take a minute and almost literally like pivot into doing something else so I could come back to taking care of my daughter at the time. So in each of those other like 4 letters of the acronym, like expanding is really all about growth and understanding that you're not the consummate parent in the very beginning. You're not going to be perfect. And so understanding that and giving yourself permission to grow into that person that you need to be the best dad that you have to kind of go back to in your own time and go, who was I, or how was I brought up, and what did my mom and dad teach me? And I talked to my mom and dad a lot when I was a new parent and said, this is what's happening. I really don't know how to deal with this. And they would give me some kind of advice, but it's a constant expansion in the beginning of parenting. And then attraction doesn't really work in this one, but I mean, that's more for like, you get what you put out in the world kind of a thing, right? So like, we were talking, Karen, about when I would be upset with my daughter and I would like be so upset and tense, like she could pick up on how upset or literally I joked about it, but literally vibrating anger, right? Like I'm so upset and tense about this, and you have to put it down. And understanding that in the world, in the universe, the things that you put out are the things that come back to you. So in kind of this microcosm of that, it's the same thing where like if you show up upset with your kids, they're going to come back with you upset. They're going to that's going to show up in your face again. And you're like, and then it becomes this vicious cycle of I'm upset, then you're upset, then I'm upset that you're upset, then you're upset that I'm upset that you're upset,
Exactly.
and it just kind of, it's this like mess of a mess.
Hmm.
It snowballs out of control. So you do have to like slow yourself down and cut ties with that feeling and that emotion and be more, and just calm down, right? Cultivate is means, again, is another word for growth. Like if you have a garden, you want the best vegetables and the best flowers. Well, you have to cultivate that. Literally, you have to pull the weeds out and care for it, and pay attention to it, and um, be attentive to the pieces that you want, and throw out the negative, and take the things out that you don't want. So cultivating really means kind of paying attention and being attentive, and curating the best parts of what you want out of your relationship with your kids, and or with anybody for that matter, with yourself too for that matter. And so with my stuff, it's all, the peace acronym, I use it for people to deal with internally for themselves, but it also applies externally too. So you have, if you can push these things out into the world, and those things will just kind of make things better for you, overall. And then the last one is evolve, which is what you become at the end of all of this, when you're putting it all together, and everything kind of fits together, and all the cogs are spinning, and everything's working kind of in tandem, and in synchronicity, and you become this best version of yourself, which is the ultimate goal. But the caveat there is that I would say there's no such thing as a final evolution, because we're always changing. You should always be looking to grow. So there is no end game with evolution. It's always changing. You get to one height, you get to one success, and then you're always looking for the next version of, how do I get better now? How do my kids achieve this one thing? That's awesome. That, but that's not the end. There's more to it. There's always going to be growth. And I think, as parents, my goal, I'll speak for myself. My goal as a parent is to raise someone who makes a mark on this world, that reflects the values, the core values that you have within you, in a good way, that affects the world positively. Um, and that they do that autonomously, without you having to tell them what to do all the time. They're just, all of a sudden, it's like innate it's in their persona. It's part of who they are. It's not something conscious that they're doing. It's just something that they are. You created that. You lit that spark. You planted that seed. Whatever metaphor you want to use. And now it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And so now you don't have to do that anymore. And you've created this person, this force on the planet that's like, positive and happy and resourceful, and all of the things that you want in a person, to go out and spread that out, to other people. And that is how we proliferate, or that's immortality, actually. And like, if you can keep that going, I think we as a society are who we are because of the people that came before us, obviously, good and bad. um, and hopefully, when we focus on the things that are good, those things have, I hope, grown faster than the things that are negative. I think we are an evolving society, a culture, like, especially here in America. And well, I don't know if that's true or not, if we're that involved.
With the recent
But
events.
yeah, I think we're trying. I think people are trying. I think there's definitely effort being made. But we as parents, me as a parent, speak for me. I as a parent, all I can do is, um, tend to my own garden, take care of the kids that I raised, and make sure that they understand my core values, and like are spreading light out there in the world, um, without me having to tell them to do that. They just are doing that because that's who they are. So
So I have a question
um,
for you though. What
yeah.
happens if, sorry to interrupt you, but this is what I've come across recently, where parents feel like they did a good job. And then all of a sudden, of course, there's disagreement followed by disappointment. And what they thought they raised their kids to be
Mm.
doesn't take place, right? Either they feel like, why didn't you become more responsible? Why are you not being more motivated to pursue a passion, or especially during the pandemic? I think a lot of the kids who did lose their jobs, well, adult kids, right? And sometimes they're going through either depression or just lack of motivation. And then the parents are frustrated because they're thinking, why don't you have
The
whatever it's
tools,
supposed to
why don't
take,
you
the
have the
tool?
tools that
Yeah.
I thought you had to,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
So I mean, your kids are still relatively young, right? How is your oldest?
My oldest is 20, and then I have a 17,
Okay.
almost 18-year-old and a 13-year-old. So far, I haven't personally experienced that. They're still kind of in that upward trending thing of where
Right.
they're trying to get where they want to go. They haven't really gotten like had any setbacks like that. I'll speak for myself. So, when I was kind of one of those overachieving high school kids and stuff. I'm not over, I wasn't a straight A student, but I was like, involved in lots of things. And I felt like I was kind of like, you know, ascending in life
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
to a point. I think that might have changed when I turned like 20 or 21, when all of a sudden I felt like I hit this plateau and I couldn't figure out the next level because I didn't know what I wanted to do and I didn't know, where I was going. I felt like I was kind of aimless. And then I felt like, again, I felt kind of what you explained, like I was slipping backwards and not making the kind of progress that maybe I wanted to have or that my parents wanted to see me have. I think there was pressure to go to college, and I did go to college. I didn't finish college, but I just kind of decided I was going to just do things on my own, uh, in my
How
own
did your
terms.
parents take that? Or because some
You
parents, like, you
know,
need to go to college, others are more open-minded. Did that?
my parents used my mom mostly. My dad was very, you know, unopinion. He had no opinion of it, but my mom, you pulled out the D word. Disappointed in you, Dustin. And I was like, oh, geez, okay.
Oh, don't say that. And I
Or,
thought that was good. And then research shows that that's one of the worst things to say because it makes the
yeah,
child feel, I thought, oh, I'm just
yeah,
being honest. Yeah,
less
less
than,
than.
for sure.
Exactly.
It was that, but at the same time, I was strong enough in my own self to go, well, you don't know me, like, I don't say, not that you don't know me, but I can handle this. I'm going to do this a
How
certain
do you
way. I've
get
got to,
that? How do you get that?
I don't know. I think
You
that's
think it's just an inborn?
innate. I think to that point, I'd said, I've accomplished these things in my life to this point. Like I've gotten good grades. I'm a popular kid, whatever, relatively successful in my own mind about who I am. And so I'm like, I can get to this point. I've gotten to this point in my life just fine. I'll figure this out. Just let me figure it out. And my parents, they didn't over try to help me, or they were busy too at that age. When I was that age, they weren't trying to be my like in my junk, in my stuff. They're
You
like,
weren't
well, I guess
helicopter
he's gonna,
parents. Yeah.
yeah, they're just gonna let me do it and like figure it out. And I
Wow.
never did come to them really for assistance or help, or I'd ask them advice now and again, but I wasn't like trying to
Get their approval.
yeah, I wasn't for that. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. They're not really, they've got their thing, I got my thing. It's my responsibility, I think. But to your question, when parents kind of experience their children that maybe um, aren't reaching their full potential to the extent that they believe that they're capable of, right? I think that right there, what I just said, is something key to say, explain to your kid, to your child, to your adult kid or whatever. I want the best for you. I know for a fact that you are more capable than what you're showing me right now. And then ask them what they need, and I'm saying this hypothetically and kind of theoretically because I'm not there yet, but if it's me in my position and I'm going forward, if I had someone say to me, if one of my kids came to me and said, I don't know what to do, yada yada, I'd be like, I know you're capable of more. I've seen it. Focus on, I'll focus, let me help you focus on the things that I think you're great at. You know, find the things that it's very simple. Let's find the things that you're grateful for. And let's find a way to change your mindset about who you are and what you're capable of, because that is a pivot too. That's an expansion and an attraction and a cultivation and all of those things that we just talked about. And the end result there is to get them to evolve into the next person, the next version of themselves, so that they're, so that they feel confident, that they can achieve things on their own, that they have, the impetus, the self confidence to move, without you kind of nudging them along. So how do you pull that out? You just ask them questions, and you make them feel like, rediscover the things that are great about them. Look, remember when you did this, and how, get them to re-experience those feelings and those emotions of victory and triumph. And you start firing in those neurons, and it gets them kind of back, their juices flowing of what that's supposed to feel like. And now you can just say, look, just apply that to what you're doing now. Let's find something to focus that energy on, that you can make some progress on, whether it be big or small. And if the answer is they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, or they don't know where they're going to go, or they don't have a direction to follow, well, let's figure out, what do you like to do? Like, what gets you going? What do you love the most? Like, is it music? Is it watching TV? Is it video games? Is it playing sports? Whatever. And then let's find something that's related to something like that, so that you have something that motivates you to do something in that direction, because progress equals happiness, right? So
Definitely.
right. So then we have to find a way for them to find progress, whatever that might be, because when you're not growing, that's what they're feeling. They're not feeling growth. And so you have to really try to get them to find that growth pattern, and nurture that along. And it might not be in the direction that you as a parent want them to be in. It's not your business. It's not your job as a parent to mandate how they should feel about a certain thing or a certain direction. Like, well, I was a lawyer, I was a doctor, you should be a lawyer or a doctor. Like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not my passion. That's not what I want to do. And
That's a
that's
hard
something.
thing, though. That's a hard thing to convince parents, because
It
I just had
is.
a senior, and he said, I'm going to be an engineer and I said, is that your dream or your parents' dream? And he
Yeah.
paused. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because when you're raised, this is your dream. You're going to either be this or this, and then the child doesn't even realize that they actually can choose otherwise. They can
Yeah.
choose differently.
And there's a lot of pressure there, I think, especially, in those two examples that we gave. I mean, if they see, that's how they were raised, and that's, that was the culture they were raised in, is, oh, dad's a lawyer, dad's a doctor, and God forbid other family members are in the same line of work, because then you're like, oh, we're a family of doctors,
Yes,
or a family
exactly.
of attorneys. I have to follow in the family footsteps, and if I don't, then I'll be ostracized for it, or whatever.
Or the only boy. See, in my case, my student was an only boy. Mom was from China. The dad was from I'm local Asian guy, and it's like, you need to be successful, and it's going to be our version of success.
Exactly. But then, and that's great, but then, what's that costing you, really? That costs a lot. Like, and it costs the potential long-term happiness of your kid, whatever, and just that you're happy that your kid is, fitting in is in line, or coming correct with their job
But
and
they're
their
not
career
happy.
opportunity, but they're not happy. So then, really, did you win? I mean, not really, but I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of different trains of thought on that, but um, in terms of other people, like achievement, like if kids not getting the grades that you think that they're capable of getting, like, let's use school as an example. With school, it comes down to, like, do you have all the tools that you need? Are you understanding the curriculum? Do you understand what we're doing here? Do we need to
Sometimes they
back
don't
up?
care, though. That's
That's
what's
true.
hard. That's what's hard. I had sixth grade who said, you know what? And I don't care. I don't think we should
Yeah.
go to school past sixth grade. I think it's ridiculous. We're not going to be able
Yeah.
to, we don't need to use all this stuff. And then the
Yeah.
parents are like, you need to get at least, better than a C. And then it becomes like, just pass. You get to
Well,
the point where
okay.
just pass.
So, I mean, I went through that too with my kids, and they're like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, well, I don't want to do this either, but
Yeah.
let's do this together. Let's make this interesting. Let's do this, whatever. If there's a competitive spirit in your kid, let's make it a competition. Like, let's do this. let's find a way to make this, that fit into your personality of what it is that you want to do. And I wouldn't call that manipulation, but it kind of is manipulation.
Like
But
but it's slowly like the motivation too, right? It's kind of a motivation
yeah, but I mean,
slash.
it's got the side effects to that, or that, they've accomplished something, that that they're supposed to accomplish. There's an assignment to be done. And I think too, with that, I think the bigger lesson isn't so much about what it is that they're learning, right? It's not about the curriculum. It's about, and I hate to use the word being compliant, but it is about learning to be a member of society, and following rules, and following guidelines that you have to learn to live by in society if you want to be a productive member of it. Um, Whether you like to do it or not, there are still laws you have to follow. Like, I don't want to not, run somebody off the road. I want to, but you can't because it's not
Right. Or
right,
pay
right?
taxes, or like, yeah, if
Right,
your boss, I
exactly.
always tell them, if your boss says, can you get me coffee, and you're just starting, or, and you can't say, well, that's not
Right,
my job. I am
right,
not here to do that. But
right. We're trying to teach these kids how to be, adults, and how to be not adults. We're trying to teach them how to be, like I said, like contributing members of society, good people. That's the bottom line, good people.
yeah,
Teach them how to be that. And even if it's something they disagree with or they don't want to do, then how do we communicate that? What's the best way to convey how you're feeling? Because again, you don't necessarily have to agree, or, do, that you don't have to agree that, or like what you're doing, but you definitely have to be able to express yourself in a way that is, that works with other people, because that's how you get along. That's how you get
yeah,
along with. That's
yeah.
how we're in a. This is our. That's how society works. It's how humankind works through effective communication. And so, if you're able to like focus on that part of it, and instead of maybe the task at hand, but maybe the bigger picture of it. Well, this is why we have to do it like this. Let's forget about what you like or don't like for a second, and let's just figure out, like, well, how would you feel if someone came and told you that they wanted you to, or whatever, if the shoe was on the other foot and you wanted something accomplished, and they told you that, go pound sand, we don't want you to do, we're not going to do it your way, how would you feel about that? So,
Mhm, mhm.
that empathy part of it too, like trying to get that part out of it and out of them. um
That's a huge
and if
thing,
the
though, that empathy, right? Because otherwise you end up, getting into arguments, and then you lose your job. I think a lot of
yeah,
people are getting fired
yeah,
because they just
or they
don't
tell you, well,
have
I don't
it.
really care what Mrs. Jones wants.
Yeah. Okay, guess what? You're gonna be fired. Well, I don't need this job. And then
Yeah,
they realize, how am I gonna pay rent now?
yeah, exactly.
Well,
um
thank you so much. Yeah, this was really fun. And I think as parents, it's tough, changing the mindset and all, like you said, theoretically, like I just it seems like it'll work. And then lately I've been having parents say, he's not doing anything, or right. First, it's especially after graduation, right?
yeah,
When is the right time? Sometimes they'll drop out in the middle, and then the parents are panic stricken that they're destined for failure, you
well,
know?
especially in these days in this day and age, Karen, I mean, there's so many other ways that you can be successful without necessarily being like conventional college
Yeah,
education,
yeah.
yada yada. I mean, there's like, you can create an NFT and make hundreds of thousands of dollars all of a sudden, or you can get into crypto, or you can do, be a video gaming person, or an influencer, or whatever. There's all these other ways that don't have anything to do with academics, but you use the things, the material, like the things that you use are like, organizational skills, and like negotiation skills, and
Right.
real life skills that you use, that you actually maybe don't learn in school, like,
Mhm.
so I was telling my son the other day, and I know we're getting long, but I said there's two different kinds of smarts. There's academic, there's book smarts, and there's street smarts. You should have academic book smart. You should, because you need to know like ABCs, and maybe you need to learn how to write a proper sentence and all of that.
Right.
But the people that make the biggest boom in this world are the people that with the street smarts, that know how to work with people, and that know how to like negotiate themselves in the world. And you look at the most influential people that are out there these days, and a lot of the most successful people aren't college graduates.
Yeah, they dropped out of college, or yeah,
Yeah,
and that's what they're finding. Even one of my students, there's an essay that they have to, is it which is more important, imagination or being an intellectual, right? And people are, well, of course it's going to be intellect.
Mhm.
And they don't realize, because kids have been primed. It's like, you got to get straight A's, you got to like academic. And then now colleges, you know what the essays are? Describe a failure. How did you overcome failure? And I had this
Yeah.
one kid, star athlete, straight A's. His failure was dealing with his grandfather's death. And I thought, well, it's not because he didn't have a failure. But I thought, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Colleges now don't care about the valedictorian. They want someone who knows how to emotionally handle
I think
situations.
the word we're looking for is character too. You know, they want people's
Yes.
character, right? And so you have to teach that too. And that's, I think and again, theoretically speaking, for me, the ultimate success in parenting is if you raise someone with good character, that has their own kind of, like I said, their own self-drive and can do things on their own. And they're just good people and want to do good and want to share that with other people and expand that out. I mean, that's what more could you ask for as a parent,
And
right?
that's when they leave a positive mark, right? Because if you don't
Yeah.
have those characteristics and you don't have core values, or like you said, it's basically, yeah, be a good person. But I think we've forgotten that, when you hear about all these protests, or like a brother killing a brother, or all of this violence, you just realize, how do we get there? We just had someone a few weeks ago where a brother killed a brother, and it's just shocking how.
And on top of that, when you have that person that has that kind of part of themselves kind of figured out,
Yeah.
then the other parts, the professional parts and the academic, those kind of all kind of work themselves out, because they've already got that confidence and they've already got that, the tough stuff that they're working on all the time internally. They've got that under control. So now as long as they've got that under control, then they can focus on getting a job or getting better grades or being in a better relationship. If you're not strong internally first, then it's harder to be strong for somebody else, or strong, show up well at a job or show up well at school. But I think that's got to be and has been for me. I think one of the things that I always focused on first was like, let's make sure that you're good inside, let's make sure you're good up here and right here in your heart too, because
Wow. See, I think if more parents thought that way, because I think this is what happens. I don't care. I don't know what's going on in there, but your grades are falling.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
your car's gonna be taken away, your phone's gonna be taken away. And I
Yeah.
just realized right now how many parents really ask, well, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? Mentally, emotionally, because they're just, that's why I'm hired. I'm hired so many times just because report card grades are failing and something is wrong academically without even
Right.
realizing that. Wow.
And that is the trick. I mean, these kids don't know how to verbalize what's wrong. They don't
Yeah.
know
Well,
what's wrong.
because it's fearing too, though. They're fearful that if they say the wrong thing, they'll be
Yeah.
slammed. And
Yeah.
then,
I mean, we as adults, we don't know what's wrong all the time. We don't know. We're trying to figure it out too. Like, there are still days that I kind of go, I don't know what I'm feeling right now or where this is coming from. I don't understand why I feel like everything is uphill. Why do I feel like my feet are stuck in mud all day long? Why do I feel like, so going back to the beginning of this conversation, the
yeah.
P.E.A.C.E acronym, it starts with you, and it starts with you trying to like take a pause and a step back and go, all right, what else could this mean? Where is this coming from? It's coming from some kind of external source. I can control what I can control. I can control how I feel about a certain thing, and I need to make an adjustment and change the trajectory of whatever it is that I'm feeling, so that it doesn't take me down, because it will if I let it. Yeah. So again, and with the parenting thing, we can keep going, but like the parenting thing starts with you too. Like what you show your kids is what they show you back. So you have to be kind of aware of
Wow.
that.
Great quote right there. Because you
Yeah.
know how some parents are really just horrified at how their
Yeah.
kids treat them. But
Yeah.
what you just said, it's a learned behavior, right?
Oh man, I see it all the time. I'm like, well, why are you acting so poorly? And I'm like, or you see it's mom or dad yelling at their kids and they're yelling back. I'm like, it's you started this, mom. You started
Exactly.
this, dad. They're showing you what you showed them. So,
Exactly.
you know, that's where you definitely have to stop and take a breath and go, wait, hold on, this is going to be a vicious cycle, and I can see it coming,
Stop
so
right there.
stop right there.
So how can people find you? Because I think this is proof that if you have a positive mindset, which is what you are, right? Justin's a positive mindset coach. I love inspirational thinker. I think if more people practiced being, everything that you just said and just incorporating the 5 concepts of growth. If someone wanted to work with you, how do you find you?
Well, I have a Facebook group. It's called the Phoenix Group. It's you're welcome to join me up anytime. The coaching part of my business is actually very kind of I'll be honest with you, it's kind of in its infant stage, but that's okay. I'm happy to talk to anyone that needs any kind of like direction or just have a conversation with me. You can reach me on my cell phone. My phone number, I think, will be somewhere.
Yeah,
And my
post it.
email address. I think you have that as well,
Yeah.
but it's and then I do a weekly podcast with 4 other guys that we're all divorced dads. Also, we kind of do this positive mindset thing in the realm of divorce, where we kind of give tips and tricks and stuff on how we survived it. It's for anybody, not just women, not just men, that wants to kind of, maybe they're struggling with it now, or maybe they dealt with it in the past and are just kind of trying to figure it out.
The name of that podcast?
It's called the X-Men Roundtable.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good group of guys. We're a very diverse group of guys. I'm in Sacramento, California. One guy's up in Oregon. I got a guy over in Boston, one in St. Louis, and one out in London. So
Wow.
5 of us are, and we just, I don't know, it's weird. We met kind of haphazardly and kind of by chance, and we actually, it's weird, like this brotherhood that we have. It's kind of interesting, but anyway, so that's kind of where I'm at. Otherwise, yeah, the best way to get to me is probably just, jump into my Facebook group and the Phoenix group over there.
Phoenix group.
Yeah.
I'll join that right now. Well, thank you so much, Dustin. Yeah, I met Dustin through Coach V's Empowerment to Success program, and I am so glad that you guys are a great bunch of people. I didn't realize, like, I think it's, my daughter was saying maybe because, I was talking about how, how all of you guys are just like vulnerable. You have that emotional, intellectual part of you, and it's like, you don't find that. But and she was saying maybe that's why all of you folks gathered
resonate
together
with each other.
Yeah. And you were meant to like join this group, because I thought I would never in a million years just come across,
It's interesting. What you just said, it is. I don't think we realize how rare it is, but I think, the 5 of us, I mean, when we get together, we can't wait to get on our calls. We do a 1-hour Zoom call every Wednesday, and we just kind of shoot the bull for about 45 minutes, and then we find a topic to discuss, and then we hit record, and that's our
Wow. I think it's
podcast for the
becoming
day.
more
But yeah, we always kind of come up
popular
with,
right now, but because even now, I think someone in their 20s, they said, no, I'm not being vulnerable. So it was I'm not doing that, and then it's amazing how it's something that's not to be done. So I don't know if it comes with emotional maturity, or maybe something that, I don't want to say that. It's just something that is learned maybe, or you need to know that it's something that's okay to be, right? It's
for
not.
sure. It's definitely it's a chance to reset, and it's a chance to rejuvenate. We talk about that sometimes.
Yeah.
Clear the pipes a little bit, the emotional pipes, where you can just kind of let things out, and make room for more stuff. I think, I talk about I know you've written a book called Letting Go.
Letting go.
When you let go of things, you make room to grab other things, right? If you're literally holding on to something, when you let it go, you can grab something else. So you let things go that don't matter anymore, and so you can take in more good stuff. And I think
I love that emotional pipe cleaning.
Yeah, it is.
I
You
never
gotta let it go.
visualized that.
You gotta, sometimes you gotta clear the pipes and get it out. And vulnerability is part of that, and just that emotional release sometimes, and being able to share things that are important to you emotionally. That there's no weakness in that. There's zero weakness in vulnerability. When I don't know why those 2 words are intertwined, because they shouldn't be. being vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a weak person because you show some
I
vulnerabilities.
think it's the old previous generations, right? When I used to tutor 5-year-olds and they would cry, and the dad would be like, you know what, you're a big boy, stop crying. And then it's just reinforced that boys just do not cry.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm so glad that you met. I want to meet more people like that, so we can start just changing this generational, right? It has to be changed, or else it's going to perpetuate that it's weak to be vulnerable, when that totally isn't true.
Well, and to bring it back full circle, it's part of that evolution that we talk about.
It is. We must evolve by doing just taking. I don't know. We need to do it now. Otherwise, our future generations will not know how to, pivot, how to expand, right? How to just, and I think by attracting, I love how you said that. You won't be attracting what you need and want if you're in this state of like,
yuck. Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah.
That's a perfect word for it.
Yeah. Don't
we
be in
are
the state
tired of being in this yuck. 2020, the whole thing has caused enough yuck as it is.
It did. It was a dumpster fire. 2020 was a dumpster fire.
What I didn't realize when I was reading your bio, and it's like, wow, your divorce happened in 2020. I think a lot of people though realized or came across that, that, wait, you know what? Do I want to continue life this way? Or
well, that's what's happening with like jobs and everything, like what's it called, what's it called, resignation is what they're calling it. People are just quitting their jobs because they're figuring out that they weren't fulfilled, and they want to pursue their passions and their dreams, and that's what they're doing now to be happier in their life. And so that's why you're seeing all these people that aren't really going back to work anymore. They're trying to figure out that's why there's this influx of coaching now. There's a new influx of new businesses starting all over the place, where people are trying to figure it out that, I'm worth more than this guy was paying me per hour. And they're realizing that. So
I just came across an article that says people are not quitting because they're lazy and they don't want to work. They're quitting because what you just said, they find self-worth, and they're thinking and realizing, I don't need to have this job that gives me benefits, that gives me all this, but gives me more stress, and you're not fulfilled, Well,
and that goes back to again to like going back to the parenting thing, like kids that are, that have the ability to pivot out of that
box
9 to
of
5
college,
whatever. Now they're using life skills, and they're learning this is what I'm going to do. Well, now you can go do it, but you have to have these real life skills in order to do it and be successful in that. And honestly, Karen, kids are so much smarter than they were when we were kids. They're so much more advanced. They've got so many more tools. They've got so many more resources than we ever had, and they know how to use them. If you ever watch TikTok and you see these kids make these videos, and you're like, how the heck are they doing this? I make TikTok videos now and again too, and it takes me so long to do it.
I know. And they do this magic thing, right? They're like, wait a minute, how did that even happen?
Yeah, they just look kind of amateurish and like bad. And I'm like, and I've seen all these people like, did a Hollywood producer just help you do that? I'm like, no, my 13-year-old made a video the other day. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, you made that just now? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. So
I did it in one take.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh Lord. But yeah,
well,
so there's
thank you. Thank you so much. This was fun. I felt bad that I took away your Saturday evening, but I'm glad that you don't mind doing these things, because I think you've really touched a lot of lives, and I'll let you know when it airs, and I'm so thankful for crossing paths with you.
Too, Karen. Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Okay,
right.
bye.
Bye.